Greetings, dear viewers. You are on the Moto channel. In this video, I want to tell you about a unique racing motorcycle. This machine was built by the enthusiast Robin Tuluy. A snowmobile engine was used as the power unit, and this homemade bike's specific power surpassed the best factory racing motorcycles of that time. With a dry weight of 119 kilograms, this motorcycle could boast 185 horsepower. That means there was 1.553 thousandths horsepower per kilogram of weight. Dry numbers don't say much, so here are a few examples for comparison. For the supercharged Kawasaki H2R, this figure is 1.509 thousandths horsepower per kilogram. The modern Grand Prix racing model, Honda RC 213V, has a figure of 1.6 horsepower per kilogram, and the youth favorite Yamaha R1 can only boast a figure of just 1.07. This amazing motorcycle is called Tularis 800. That's what we're going to talk about today. Enjoy watching. To understand why the Tularis 800 motorcycle turned out the way it did, you need to get to know the creator of this masterpiece, Robin Tuluy. As of 2023, Tuluy is 58 years old. He was born and raised in Germany, where his father, who was of Iranian descent, sold Persian carpets. And then, in 1982, the family immigrated to California. Robin graduated from the University of California, Berkeley, and then earned a PhD in astrophysics. At the same time, he is passionate about motorcycles. After university classes, Robin rode his old Norton Commando and often joined amateur races. It should be said that Tuluy excelled in physics. He worked with Nobel laureates, and his research on modeling the early evolution of the universe was later confirmed by satellite measurements. But at a certain point, his passion for two-wheeled motor vehicles was outweighed by his desire to find out how galaxies were created. However, the physicist's meticulous approach to things remained. In 1993, already a doctor of physics, Robin built the Tolda eccentric 500 motorcycle. This was Tolda's first attempt at creating a motorcycle. The chassis was very light, and eccentric in the name was fitting. Thanks to the eccentrics in the motorcycle's design, it was possible to change the fork angle or the position of the swing arm. This allowed for individual adjustment of the motorcycle's handling. The engine from the Honda CR500 was upgraded to a maximum power of 75 horsepower. At the same time, the dry weight of the motorcycle was only 87 kilograms. On the eccentric 500, Robin performed very well in the national championship races and also took first place in the 1995 American Historic Racing Motorcycle Association Sound of Singles race in Daytona. In 1996, motorcycle journalist Kevin Cameron met Tuluy and introduced him to Polaris executives. Polaris was planning to start their own motorcycle brand, so an experienced engineer would be valuable to them. The snowmobile manufacturer supposedly paid more than an astrophysics doctor could make. In '97, the company Victory Motorcycles was founded, and Robin got the position of chief engineer for motorcycle chassis. And this would be the event that predetermined the creation of an outstanding racing motorcycle. Tuluy always dreamed of joining the Moto Grand Prix, and the machines competing there are much fiercer than the old Norton or the homemade eccentric 500 that Robin had. While working at Polaris, he notices a prototype engine for a racing snowmobile. This sparks his rich imagination. In Robin's home workshop, a flurry of activity unfolds as he works on creating an outstanding racing motorcycle. And the manufacturing base of Polaris Industries becomes a valuable support in this endeavor. Thanks to his high position, Robin had the opportunity to use the company's computing power for modeling in his free time, computer numerical control machines for manufacturing parts and components, test benches for testing the chassis and dynamics of the motorcycle, and so on. The two-stroke, two-cylinder, liquid-cooled engine with reed valves at the intake with a displacement of 700 cubic centimeters from a Polaris racing snowmobile, was improved. Initially, Robin modified this engine to a bore and stroke of 85 by 68 millimeters. That's the cylinder bore and piston stroke. The engine displacement was 772 cubic centimeters, and the power was 167 horsepower at the crankshaft. However, this was not the final goal. Tuluy increased the piston stroke by 2 millimeters to 70. This action increased the displacement to 792 cubic centimeters. The power went up to 185 horsepower. And thanks to the increased piston stroke, the already considerable torque also increased significantly. It reached 160 Newton meters in power. The motorcycle was similar to MotoGP machines, but the Tularis 800's torque was about 1.5 times higher than its competitors, and that meant the unique motorcycle with a snowmobile engine had astonishingly fast acceleration, comparable to dragsters. The engine of the Tularis 800 motorcycle isn't the only masterpiece. Its chassis is also excellent. The design uses aluminum and magnesium alloys, as well as carbon fiber. Thanks to this solution, they managed to achieve minimal weight for the machine. By the way, Tularis Vosamsat is the first motorcycle that was initially fully modeled on a computer, and the name is derived from the engineer's last name and the company name Polaris. Actually, just like the name Tulda, which is derived from the words Tuluy and Honda, Tuluy completed this project in 1999, and it was time for the running tests. In March 2000, Robin debuted his creation on the track, but soon realized he lacked the experience to handle such a powerful sports machine. Tuluy earned 4 American Historic Racing Motorcycle Association titles on this bike, and later, after changing jobs, he focused on new developments and projects, giving more experienced racers the opportunity to harness the power of the Tularis 800. American Motorcyclist Association pro racer Robert Jensen won several national races on this machine, and a little later, he won a race in the 2003 Formula United States of America Series at Mid-America Motorplex, beating a bunch of souped-up Suzuki GSX-R 1000S and Honda NSR 500Vs. The maximum speed the motorcycle reached in the races was 292 kilometers per hour. In 2004, Robin moved to Britain to work as the head of research and development for the Renault Formula One team, and at the same time he took his two-wheeled Wonder with him. A little later, in 2005, Tularis 800 appeared on the racetrack next to the Renault Formula One car. At the insistence of the rider who rode the motorcycle, the engine was slightly retuned for a smoother power delivery as the revs increased. From time to time, the Tularis 800 is showcased at various motorcycle events. For example, in 2015, Robin rode his motorcycle at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. However, most of the time, this technical marvel is hidden away in a cozy garage in the English countryside, where Tuluy lives. As Robin himself says, the most enjoyable part of creating this motorcycle was that I got pleasure from developing it and from the people I met along the way. It is worth noting that building an excellent racing motorcycle turned out to be a valuable experience, which later proved useful when working with the Renault and Mercedes-Benz Formula One teams. Tuluy turned these teams from constant Formula One underdogs into dominant world champions. So that's the story, my friends, of the talented engineer Robin Tuluy and his excellent Tularis 800 racing motorcycle with a snowmobile engine. At this point, my story comes to an end. As always, this was Crass Moto Channel. Thank you for watching and for your activity on the channel. Also, don't forget that I have a Telegram channel where I post interesting information, discuss new projects, and so on. Special thanks to everyone who supports financially through the pinned details. See you next time.